Communication. It's all about communication. You just need to communicate better. But when you ask somebody what communication is, or how do you really communicate better, people are like, they give you some standard terms that don't really help anybody to do or to understand what communication is or how to do it properly. And hopefully we're going to open that up further. And when it hit me specifically, where I knew that communication was key, and we had an issue with it in my marriage early on, is in 2016, my wife and I, we watched a very good video about relationships. It was about a 7-minute video. And I don't know if she remembers it, but I remember it because it hit me very hard. We literally watched the same video. And after 7 minutes, I go, "Did you watch the video?" And she's like, "Yeah, it's an amazing video." And then I go, "Did you hear? He said this and this and this." And I only heard all the things that she needed to do in the relationship. You know, you need to improve in this. Look, if you just did this, our marriage would be perfect. And she goes, "What are you talking about?" And she only heard what I had to fix in the relationship. And it was literally the same 7 minutes that we watched, and we heard the exact opposite things. And it struck me, and I started laughing. I just couldn't help myself, because I realized how our entire perception, my entire perception, was around what I wasn't getting. It was around where the other person needs to fix himself or herself. It was around, you know, what are the areas that they need to improve, not necessarily the aspect of togetherness or working on anything together. It was, and that dynamic just made it really funny. So that was the highlight of our development from communication to what we now have. So communication, as we know, on the animate level, has very little to do with words. Animals communicate practically without words. They communicate through scent, they communicate through body language, they communicate essentially their internal states through external means that have very little to do with words, mostly with intonations, sound inflections, body language. But that communication, and what I didn't like about modern psychology or modern coaching, is that they tell you what to do externally. You know, you need to sit down and you need to converse in such a way, or you need to, you need to do these and these actions. And none of them really speak about this internal shift that has to happen within a person. Whereas communication has nothing to do with how we express something externally, but it's all about what it is internally that we're trying to express. So the understanding, and I'm speaking in a lot of externally, internally, but I want to clarify, it's really all about what it is inside. What is the message that essentially we want to communicate? Meaning, we want to raise awareness of our internal world, so that we ourselves are aware of what we want to say, what we want to communicate, what we want to convey, what we want to hear from the other person, how we connect to them on an internal level. And this is where the challenge of communication comes in, is that no external trick is going to help us improve the way we understand and interact with each other. Any questions so far?
I'll raise my hand. Have you watched the Dr. Lightman's videos on the communications in his blog? He's got a whole series. It's probably 8 to 10 years old. Are those the videos you're speaking of? Alex?
Yeah, go ahead, Chantal.
It's because I thought you was going to answer, Lee. I I'm realizing my question is, I don't know even what I want to communicate internally. So that's complicated. Maybe with words I can say blah, 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 like a parrot, but internally that shocked me. What you said, that internally what we want to communicate. That I would like to, if you can dig, or maybe I'm the
Let's
only one
dig.
that I'm lost. Sorry.
Let's dig. Let's dig. So essentially, what is communication? Every single one of us lives in their own world, in their own perception, in their own understanding and views and beliefs of themselves and the world around them. And so what communication is our ability to interact with what we perceive as outside of us, creating a sort of connection with that world. It's maybe the simplest, oversimplified, but and I'm not even sure if it's clear enough. So if it's not clear enough, please ask so that we can clarify what that means. So I have the five senses, right? And this is how I interact with the world. I perceive, I feel, I touch, I smell, I taste. And all of that happens through the senses, that the world is sending me some messages, communication, sounds. It arouses certain feelings in me. Then these feelings stir a certain emotion, and then that results usually in a certain action or a feedback. Now, when it happens on an automatic level, then it's an instant. Something angered me, I have a response. The response dictated usually based on upbringing and education and how the models that I've seen from my early environments as a child. So if I see that when my dad gets upset, he lashes out, he raises his voice, he acts out, this is my model of coping with this emotion that is called anger. That's how I know as a human being to handle it. So when I experience this emotion called anger, this is how I handle this emotion. I get angry, I get upset, I lash out. I need to get dominant externally over that emotion. Just as a very simple example of that specific interaction. What happens is with our partner, we often want to communicate something, right? So give me an example of something that you would want to communicate to one another, to your partner, to your loved one. Good question. We'll get to that later. We don't necessarily want to go into the technical aspect of it because then it's going to get confusing. But what I do want to understand is that my communication, my interaction with another person is determined purely by my mindset. And my mindset is that internal blueprint of who I am. Meaning, from the day I was born till today, my brain, my subconscious brain, has been conditioned to interact in a certain way under certain conditions with my environment. Like in the example that I explained with my father, this is one model of interaction. I got that from him. If I have a model of kindness, for example, from my mother, of gentleness, then this imprint is within me. Now it becomes a part of my blueprint, a part of my personality, a part of my mindset. It becomes so ingrained within me that I don't think, oh, this is just a model that I received from my mother or from my father or from a friend or from anybody else, it becomes a part of who I am. I no longer distinguish how my environment influenced me to who I am. It just becomes me. So my mindset is basically the formula in which I interact with those around me. Specifically, where it comes as a challenge with my spouse, with my partner, is that we have two different models. I have my own mindset, my own blueprint, my own formula of interaction in certain situations, and he or she have their own internal blueprint, internal formula of interacting under certain situations, and they may be completely different, and usually they are completely different, in fact, opposite. So if I lash out in the moment of anger, my spouse may have the blueprint of retreating during a time of conflict, so that not to cause conflict, or to calm down the situation so that we can talk about it calmly. Either way, if they don't complement one another and they begin to clash, then this is what happens. We begin to experience clashes in the relationship, fights, feuds, misunderstandings, the gotchas, the you don't understand me, and all of the negativity that usually surrounds around very fundamental topics. Now, I'm going to ask you guys to bring me down, because I feel like we're kind of flying, hovering over in some cloud, and I want to bring this a little lower so that we can speak maybe a little bit more practically. So I know Brandon wants to talk about something, or maybe one of the other guys wants to bring something to the table, or ladies, if you have some questions that may help.
Maybe I will ask. Actually, that this that you mentioned about regular psychology, that the methods that they offer, it's like, can you just explain what this method that you are talking about consist of? I mean, that is regular psychology tell you that we are sitting together, so one person is opening heart and explaining why she felt like that, and etc., like about emotions. Other person is saying how he was feeling or something like that, and that's like and then when the session is closed, nothing changed, especially actually. Like, no, the purpose of that is like you just taking everything, putting everything on the table, but nothing done, like nothing fixed, and the same happening more and more. So what is your solution about this inner? You mean that it's like if we opening all this stuff, so we need to work on that, each of other, because we need to change this blueprint. I know that it's like my blueprints, they are just like destroying everything.
So
because I'm reacting.
That's a great, let me answer that, because that's a great question. That's exactly what I was looking for. So basically the question is, what is different about what you're saying from what they're saying? Because they're saying, open up, talk about what you have going on inside. The other person opens up, talks about what they have going on inside, and then you live happily ever after, where in fact nothing actually changes. So what is different about what we're saying? The difference about what we're saying is that we come from the perspective of we are machines that have been programmed in a certain way. So essentially, we treat ourselves as a third person. I want to understand your nature. You want to understand my nature. what triggers me, what upsets me, how I react in certain situations, what makes me happy, what makes me sad, all of these things. Why? Because if we are living together, I want to push the right buttons so that I help you stay away from the danger zone where you lose control. And you want to help me by uplifting me and by keeping me in a certain mood so that I can feed back into you. Where essentially we're feeding each other, sustaining ourselves on a higher level of awareness instead of being stuck in those blueprints. We don't need to fix the blueprints. Where we feed each other and where we actually learn how to properly understand who we are as people, who we are as those blueprints, we know how to react when something triggers. I know, okay, that's not her, it's nothing personal, that's just something that comes from childhood, for example. So I take all of this negativity, I take all of this shit as a man, I put it aside, and then we learn how to handle, because now the storm has blown away. Now we can talk about something. Now we can uplift the spirit, get in an elevated mood. From there, we can begin to build higher, because our goal is not to start digging deeper, but to build higher above those calculations. Make sense? Yeah, man.
I had something,
Yeah.
Alex. First to Deanna or Diana, your statement that your blueprint is destroying, I may not have exact of it. You're building too, building something new constantly, this tearing down, building up. But my background is occupationally, vocationally is commercial air conditioning. And I see that you talked about machine and feedback. There's just been an evolution through that particular widget and everything else, as well as the soul, this continual evolving and developing. And so I personally, I'm like, okay, here I've had a relationship, no longer married, unfortunately, but that's what it is. And so I'm like, okay, trying to backtrack and fix or fix myself to say, don't let that happen again. I don't mean to be getting too long-winded here, but so what are you saying, Lee? This how I see it, as just a developmental thing. I developed, and now I'm awakened to listen and say how, what is being said to me. I don't know how. I mean, each of you, know that you're more elevated and more developed than you were yesterday or last year or whenever, in your relationship, etc. So I guess I'm just saying that I see it as this ever evolving thing, that it's happening naturally on the one hand. I feel that.
Yeah, absolutely. The evolution happens as we get additional feedback. So we constantly are adjusting to the environment. You're absolutely right. So what is the question, Lee? Like specifically, what what do
How
you want to
do
know?
I develop my this
Brilliant.
this internal, how do I hear the heart
Yeah.
of my
Yeah.
mate
Yeah.
without words?
You don't.
Chantal, you were saying how, you're not sure what you want to communicate. I can see, having been married for 25 years, 20 plus,
Lee, can
I
I
know
answer
that.
your question?
You please go ahead.
Yeah. So here is when understanding of male and female nature goes in. I heard once from a brilliant psychologist. He said something, a relationship psychologist. He said this: women need to understand men. Men don't need to understand women. Men need to love women. So you don't need to understand her. You don't need to understand her emotions. You just need to make sure that you love her and you know how to love her and how to do that. She, on the other hand, she needs to understand you because she needs to understand how you operate, what triggers you, what motivates you, how to, and the reason is that was my problem. I tried to understand her. That's fine. That's fine. We all make mistakes and we evolve and we learn, and that's perfectly fine. Men traditionally had goals, something higher that is above us. That's what made us men, because we had to strive for something that was above us. When we were in the prehistoric times, our goal was our role, whether we were a healer, and then our goal was to make sure that we're the best healer that we can be because the entire village depended on our healing, or we were sorry, or we were a hunter, so we had to make sure that we develop our skills so that we can feed the entire village. And those were our goals. We served our purpose for the benefit of the collective. Today, where everybody is very comfortable and basically is isolated from the collective because you have everything you need at the click of a button on Amazon. It's delivered from groceries to everything else, basically. Our interaction and our need of one another causes a lack of need of one another, basically causes a lot of problems for us because we're lost. We don't know what we are, why we are, what we're doing. Those who chase money have a goal, because at least that is something that I can put as a target, developmental. I can see that. But those who aren't interacting with others around them, they are kind of lost because they're an island in the middle of the ocean and all they have is an ocean. So they don't know what to do with themselves. So for men, it's important. Sorry about that. For men, it's important to find ways to be useful for others. And then see where they feel best at, what they actually like doing, developing, growing. Like, I love talking to people about relationship. I love solving problems. I love it because it gets my brain triggered in the right way, that it releases endorphins and I come alive. It's something that's very special for me. And I cherish those moments that I have with you guys and other clients that I have and at work, because I get to solve challenges. So I want to do it as best that I can. And the same for each and every one of us. Once a man has a goal that he strives for, that is above him, that's something that he can actually dedicate his entire life for, then what happens is he has a base, which is his family. This is what feeds him. This is what gives him energy. This is his safe space. He needs to cherish that safe space. He needs to care for that space, the safe space. He needs to make sure that all of the negativity of him developing in the external world doesn't come back into the family, which is another challenge that we're seeing in today's world. Why? Because we're taught that our wife is our partner. We can come and we can talk to her as equal. We can bring her problems, and then she brings her challenges and we work through them together. And where it's fine in the beginning, what happens is it doesn't feed the wife. The man is capable of solving all of his problems by himself if he is fed properly, the right energy. And if he aligns himself with others in a way that externally, a tribe, for example, like men, they sit together and they solve. They don't need to bring it home. The home is where the peace is. That's why the Hebrews had a concept that is called shalom bayit, peace in the home. And the peace in the home, that shalom bayit, that peace between a husband and wife, is one of the most cherished concept in the Jewish tradition. And there's entire studies and sources and everything that's written about it, because a woman is an energetic hub that is considered divine. And you don't want to bring any negativity into it, because what happens is it grows and it comes back into you, and it brings challenges into the relationship, not from her fault, but because the man allowed it to come in. Again, these concepts is not something that we are taught, not something that we're even aware of, and it's not something that we can or could prevent. But when we build for ourselves a fortress within our families, and then the man builds for himself a fortress outside of his home, where he has friends and allies that he surrounds himself with in the pursuit of his higher purpose, then he aligns himself with the divine. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it came to my mind Alex. So a man needs an external group of men, I understand, and like a support group external in the world. While you was talking, I realized what I want to share with Ben, that is my partner. I don't know if I'm a very mad woman, but I'm going to express sincere from my heart what I want. I want to feel security. I want to feel the center of his life, no, of his home life, no. Maybe I'm too jealous. So if we are in the street and I perceive that he's attracted to some other woman, I don't like that. And I'm very, very honest. Maybe the rest of the friends here, women, are not like me, so crazy. But I feel exactly like that. I want security. I want to feel the center woman of his life, and that I feel he's not attracted to other women. I know that's crazy, because the world is full of beautiful women all around showing off, but well, that's what I want. You ask me, what as woman do you want? And the second, I don't know if I'm correct. And the question I have, does women also need this circle outside of the family to share with other women? Well, that's okay. I don't know if this helps what I say.
A woman, she can have connections outside of the family, friends, female friends, but she doesn't require it. She can if it serves a purpose for her, if it serves a need, a fulfillment, even at a higher level, she can, but not that she needs it like a man does. If a wife is at home, she's perfect. She doesn't need anything else. Now, this is where it comes to the woman also understanding her partner, in that, I don't know how to express it. Patience. Patience specifically in finding ways to work with us. um I talk about it often where, girls that are born perfect. They already possess all the feminine qualities that they will ever need for the rest of their life from birth. You look at a girl, she's a woman, 100%. I look at my 6-year-old, she's a woman. A boy is a boy. Only when he becomes to learns how to overcome, solve challenges, overcome problems, learn to cooperate with other people, gains confidence. His confidence in is his ability to conquer, to be and not self-reliant necessarily, but know how to maneuver his way around the world. This is where he feels like a man, where he's the master of his domain wherever he goes, because he knows that whatever comes my way, I'm going to be able to find a solution. And he doesn't afraid of it. Why? Because he's had enough challenges in life where he's learned experiences of how to overcome. Basically, a man, the more experienced, the more of a man he is. But because we are far away from the rites of passages that we used to have in our tribal days, where boys would be taken on a hunting expedition or actually were supervised and guided by mature men who were where they are and know how to get them past certain challenges. We don't have it today. Our schools are women, our environment are women. Moms usually are the ones to take care of us, even into teenage days. Fathers are emotionally absent, at least many of our cases was. And as men, we don't get the role models nor the guidance to become men. So as we're growing, what a woman can give us is the patience, and here comes the understanding of a man's nature. When you understand a man's nature, you know where to push, where to relax, where to encourage, where to give him peace, where to you begin to navigate the ship properly, especially where you share the same goal, where both of you want to reach something together. It's perfect. Because then all that matters is his ability and his yearning towards that goal. Whatever it is, however it is, you guys define it for yourself.
Hey, I got a question for you. You said that men don't need to understand women. We just need to love them.
Yep.
But women need to understand men. What for? Like, in order to inspire them to reaching their full potential? Like, what is the reason behind that?
Women need to understand men because women have the function of motherly unconditional love, which usually what happens is isn't unconditional. Usually women love because they expect reciprocity. So when they don't get reciprocity, because men aren't wired that way, they get resentful and angry. Because when a woman does an action, there is an expectation of a reward. So her understanding of a man's nature and how he is wired is for her benefit, so that she knows how to encourage peace and love in her home, not through her own doing, but through encouragement of her partner to construct that. Does that make sense?
So would it be accurate to say that, let's say when it comes to, I don't want to say a disagreement, an argument, a disagreement, or whatever it is. If you're people who have made a commitment towards each other, then it is, to love and to grow, good and bad, all that stuff. But at the same time, when it comes to communicating, if I have an expectation of what I want from my partner and vice versa, and they're different, and that's what's causing the disagreement or the argument, then as the man or the woman, or even both, let's call it the right line and the left line. Like you got two different sides, right? Two different perspectives. And what I need to do is to be able to nullify my thoughts, feelings, desires, and emotions for a moment and really perceive everything from her point of view so that I can feel where she is coming from, because otherwise my intellect is in the way. I'm already dissecting it, trying to solve the problem and get us moving forward, right? So instead of doing it that way, I need to just nullify that and go, okay, now I feel it from her side of it, and then turn around and create a solution from that level of connection. Is that accurate?
So this is the mindset, and this is the map of, based on your description of where we are. I'm in a relationship. I'm a married man. I get into a fight with my wife. That tells me right there that there's something that, one, either the direct complaint that I'm receiving requires a direct solution, meaning we had a fight about me not hanging the picture on the wall. It could be a fight about the picture on the wall, or it could really be a fight about me not investing enough into her and her not feeling the number one person in my life because I came late from work without letting her know, or I promised to take the kids to the park, but I didn't, and instead she had to stay with them. Or it could be a myriad of different things. So for us, it's important to understand the general formula of a relationship and how the natural forces are operating on us through the relationship and why. So we'll start with the fact that natural forces, they exist all around us, from gravity to all of the laws that Newton discovered as they exist. And everything that holds our world together is natural laws. The same happens in the relationship between people, especially in a marriage. Why? Because when we get married, we instantly become a unit. There are palpable walls around us. We can't just break up. We're together. So these forces operate on us in order to develop us, like Lee said, in order to develop us in a certain direction. So I know in advance that there are certain laws, natural laws within my relationship that operate through it to guide me as a man towards something higher. Let's call it God, call it divinity, call it universe, call it my higher self, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't matter. The point, I'm sorry. Sorry. The point is, if this is the prism through which I look at my relationship, then my wife mirrors to me where I need to fill, where I need to do more, where I need to dissect the situation, not my partner. I need to dissect myself. Where did I not give enough? Where did I show that she is not a priority for me? Where can I do a little bit more? And so as I communicate to my spouse that she is the highest priority in my life, I have to step on myself, because naturally my ego awakens, and I can be the nicest guy outside of my relationship, wanting to invest in people and help people and be the most generous man alive. And then when it comes to my relationship, I can be a completely different person. So the way nature has it set it up is that through my relationship, it actually awakens me to look at who I am, really who I am. And so we get triggered. So when both spouses are aligned in the same direction, that there are these forces, then we interact no longer with the image that is in front of us, but with the forces that are operating through it to help us grow, to help us develop. And the space now dwells in the middle. It's like it says, a man and a woman, and divinity is amongst them, if they merit. If they merit, meaning if they operate with these natural forces and not directly with each other. Because once they interact with one another, then what happens is they interact with this blueprint, and then they begin to battle with each other's walls. Because what a blueprint is basically is a maze. Of walls. Don't enter here, don't enter here, and then you can be a psychologist trying to dig deeper. Whereas what we're saying is, get rid of this whole notion. And you see how this development has grown, even in our conversation today, how we started with the same blueprint, and we've evolved into something very special, that we're operating with these natural forces that are actually developing us to awaken love, which is this higher power. It doesn't naturally exist.
I got another question. So is this how we should actually see our spouse or partner, significant other, whatever, is not as an individual, but just as this force?
You should see it as an opportunity to fulfill your role as a man, you specifically.
Oh yeah, but that's assuming I know what my role is.
Right. Which is why when we work together and you have a partner, and especially women are very good at it, at letting you know what your role is.
Just need to walk under a window.
Walk under a window?
Yeah, you don't get that reference?
No.
Rabash.
Oh, yes. Yes. More. Go ahead, Ben.
Well, I was just going to ask, I don't understand the reference, so maybe I need to study more.
The window, Rabash is the son of Bala Sulam, is a Jewish sage. Before he got married, the way traditionally back then they married off is it was all matchmaking. So they didn't get to see one another. So his first wife, she said, I want to see him before I agree to marry him. So the matchmaker arranged a time and a day for Rabash, Rav Shalom Alevi Ashlag, to walk under her window so that she can see him and agree that I want to marry him or I don't want to marry him. Now, he was a short, stocky guy. And when he walked under her window, he walked with his friend who was a tall, handsome guy. she of course didn't know who's who, so she assumed it was the tall, handsome guy, and she said yes. But then it was too late to change anything. That's it. So everybody already knows. So the three things that we need to do in communication. Finally, we'll get to the 3 steps. The 3 steps is, first of all, we understand that we're still governed by our natural instincts. And our natural instincts mean that if I am at a heightened state of emotion, I am under the control of the emotion. So whatever comes out of me when I am under the control of my emotion is not up to me. It's not my responsibility. It's just going to come out. So the first step is I need to calm down. I need to make sure that I'm leveled. Second, I need to, especially for women, I need to communicate the situation, how it makes me feel as it is, without adding an emotional charge to it. But just once I reach a leveled state, I communicate this and this action, this is how it made me feel. On the other hand, for the men, because we don't need to understand women, we need to love women, our communication is so simple. That's why for the dudes, it's so simple. You just tell her how much you love her, how much you care for her, how much you cherish her. You find little gifts that you can give her, little things that you can show your care and appreciation for her. Basically anything that will elevate her mood. This is our way of communicating this to her. Now, we may not always be successful, and we may experience a few battles before we are reawakened to the fact that I need to invest in my wife. And that's fine. That's a part of the process. And the third step is we need to learn how to let things go. Not everything needs to be solved. Sometimes we can bring up an issue or a challenge or something that made us feel a certain way without having the need to resolve it. Because if we're talking about mindset and the blueprint, we know that if it took me 37 years, more or less, to become who I am, it's going to take me some time to become something else, someone else. So as I grow, we need to have the patience to, after the communication happen, allow the time for it to actually take change and be okay with it coming back and communicating again. And then again, having the patience to give it time to take root, and so on and so forth. We still have a couple of minutes, so if you guys have some questions, I would love to open the mics.
Is that number 3? Is be patient?
Yep.
I wanted just to inspire Chantal that actually you're not this crazy woman like you told about yourself. It's like, I think it's every woman is like that feeling. It's natural, I think. That it's okay. Yeah, all that you're talking about, it's very, very, it's like the honey for my ears, you know. to listen all the stuff. And of course, it's like you told that you heard in this lesson that you was listening together with your wife, everyone heard about other. So I just catch myself that I'm listening and think, oh, of course, yes. It's like, this he need to change, this he need to do like that. No, and what to do? Should I like point at this stuff to my husband, or if I will work only like on my side, how it can have influence on him if he is not participate this lesson, is not listening this lesson? So how it can be influenced?
Women, you need to understand how influential you are in a man's life. A simple sentence, something that sounds like, oh my God, it would mean the world for me if you came with me to this lecture. I would love it so much. It's scary because you're essentially giving the keys to a man of how to make you happy. And God forbid he will have the keys of how to make you happy. He needs to figure it out on his own, right? He
Yes, but
needs
it's
to
also,
know.
sorry that I interrupt. I'm just saying that it also gives key to manipulate you. It's so that is why it's very scary, because I don't want to feel pain. And why I need to open if it's like can happen that somebody manipulate you.
But you're married, aren't you?
No, still yes. I don't know how it will be in the future. Hopefully nothing happens.
So for the sake of your marriage, you have to allow him in. As scary as that may be, that you will be manipulated, you need to understand that a man's most coveted desire, most inner, deepest need, like physical need, more than eating and everything else, is to satisfy his woman.
Maybe.
I can attest to that. I look back and I now see it was all the creator. I don't know why. I know why. You friends are just, my heart's just melting in this. I feel like having cried for the last 20 minutes, and I'll shut up so I don't cry. But yeah, I don't know what's going on.
So any last questions?
Yeah, and can you also give advice how to forgive? Or not like forgiving, it's coming after the lessons that we have listening every day, 2 times a day. It's like coming. So in this you mean this patience that you every time when you open the heart and then you again something for you need it and then it's coming again. So this is patience for or what?
Yeah, it's the patience of expressing, having the. So what is my expectation? And I can see it in my communication with my kids all the time, right? It's like, I told you something, I needed to be done like now, like right now, right? Like now, like, no, I know you're playing, but I need it to be done now, like your homework now. And so often when we communicate to one another, our expectations is, I express to you what I need, do it now. Like now, like right now. What are you doing? Like finishing your stuff? No, I need you to do it now. And sometimes you're leaving. I want you to stay for 2 more minutes. Let's do a quick summary. I just want you to each share.
Hold on, finish what you were saying to
Okay.
Diana though. You gotta, she needs it. Like give it, tell her what.
Okay, thank you. So the expectation to have it now is, I don't want to say egoistic, but it's coming from a lack of understanding of another person. Like, I can't demand something from somebody else and for it to be done now. I can do something myself and do it now because I need to do it, but I can't tell somebody or express to somebody a need of mine and have an expectation it'll be done now. If it's done now, I can express deep gratitude for it. And this is how I let them know that my request being fulfilled in a timely manner is something that is important to me and I really deeply appreciate it. And so what happens in these type of communication is we encourage one another to open an ear rather than just be each other's slaves. And some of the traps women are caught in is that a man needs to fulfill my desires. And I don't necessarily know or appreciate when he does that. He's just supposed to do that. And so when he does that and he doesn't get the recognition, he just wants to do it a little bit less. And then he does it again and he gets no recognition and he wants to do it a little bit less. So when you ask him another time, he just doesn't do it. Or he does it later, or he does it in 4 days or a month. Because we both have needs. That's why it's important for a woman to understand a man. All right, let's do a quick round of what did you get from this meeting? What was the one most impactful thing for you?
For me, it was very, very clear how a woman is a woman since a girl. She cooks, she takes care, she's in the, and how a boy is a boy and takes the man. It was impressive to understand that. Thank you.
For me, it was that I don't need to understand women. I can stop trying. I just need to love women or my woman.
I'd say that was that penetrated me. My ex, she would, at one point, she said, "You're an enigma." I don't even know if I knew what enigma was at that point, but it's like, after I figured out, why was I an enigma? I don't know why she didn't understand me, but it was obviously meant to be, and the creator. So thank you very much, Alex and friends.
I'll say the just the systematic structure. You know, there's various ways of learning things the hard way. Seems to be my natural nature, but having a systematic blueprint that kind of tells me and shows me where to understand myself a little bit more and then how to apply that when the opportunity presents itself.
I can say that when I'm taking like good good feeling and attitude. I don't remember exactly what you told. I will listen again. I know I remember, like, on my side, well, like, of course, like, woman wants to have and what needs woman, of course, I understand this. I remember always. I remember all the stuff. But regarding the other part, I will listen again if you put it in a recording, like in on YouTube or somewhere, so that somebody can listen again. And just a good feeling, such a warm, like calm, and the inspiration to move forward. Yeah, not give up and not stop. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Yeah, it was great. I loved all of it, and there were some great takeaways. I think what I loved the most was recognizing that we are a product of programming, lingering there to rise above and see what we do want in the relationship and to focus on that, but to that key of understanding, you know, that the forces, right, that we're not in control, and to sort of surrender and let go and rise above. I love that aspect. I wish we could have had that a little, you know, got into that a little bit more. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Everybody shared, I believe. My wife is going to give me her feedback later. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Alex. Take care.
Take care.
Bye, Sasha. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye, dear friends.